Hey, you guys. Okay, this is not going to be a long live. It might be like 30 minutes if we're lucky. Likely, it will be very much under 30 minutes. But when I made my video yesterday about Black female representation, somebody mentioned the senator that she went viral because she was like twerking. And I thought that this was interesting. I was like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And they gave me the name of the senator and I looked and I saw the twerking video. I did. But this is not about the twerking. The conversation I want to have today is not about the twerking. The conversation that I want to have today is about the fact that this woman is actually a pervert, which would explain the twerking, in fairness. The fact that she's a pervert would explain the twerking, but I don't really care about the twerking. I think to have the conversation about twerking is just very remedial. What I would much rather have a conversation about is I would rather have a conversation about the fact that she is a pervert, arguably. Now, in my opinion, she's definitely a pervert. But when I was researching her twerking, outside of her trying to make the fact that people are upset at her because she's gay, people are upset at her because she's twerking, people upset with her because she can do a handstand, people are upset at her because she's happy. I came across this bill that she recently introduced, which explains so much about her mentality. So much about her mentality. And the bill that I think I'm not focused. The twerking is the least of our problems, you guys. This young lady twerking and her lesbianism are like the least of our problems. We have bigger issues. There's bigger fish to fry than the fact that Miss Mack twerked. And what I was disappointed in is that there was so much conversation around her twerking that the twerking has actually derailed the conversation from the thing that we all should be talking about, which is this trifling bill that this woman introduced. Oh, she is a pervert. The woman is a pervert. I don't even care about the twerking at this point. I care about the fact that the twerking could be indicative of a bigger problem, and that is that she's a pervert. And I'm not saying she's a pervert because she's a lesbian. I'm saying she's a pervert because she is a pervert. So I want to talk about S2285. And I want to read a quote by Miss Mack, who was upset that she has been, people have started calling her names like pervert ever since she introduced this bill. So she says, I have been subject to name calling, hatred, and false information campaigns. Rooted, and she says this has all happened because she introduced this bill, rooted in fear mongering that paint the LGBTQ plus community members as dangerous to our young people. Now, this is her assertion. They're mad at me because I'm gay. They say that homosexuals are a danger to young people. Arguably, homosexuals molest at 11 times higher a rate than heterosexual people. But I'm not going to go there. What I want to do is I want to read this bill. I want to read what this woman put forth. So in Rhode Island, they have a sexual education bill. And it says all this stuff, blah, 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 right? And they want, the kids to be taught about a few things. This is the amendment right here. This is what she's added to the bill. So let's read the bill as it once was, right? The bill as it once was basically that, and I don't agree with schools teaching sex education, but it was basically that there would be a sexual education class that people could opt out of. They would teach abstinence as the best way to prevent pregnancy, which is a minor miracle because people try to act like not having sex is just not even an option for preventing pregnancy. But at least in their curriculum, they're teaching abstinence and refraining from sex as the best method to prevent pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. And then there could be parts of the course that may incorporate age appropriate and developmentally appropriate elements, such as, laws of consent and things like that, right? Prevention of pregnancy, teaching about sexually transmitted diseases, sexual violence, right? Has to be taught as part of the instructions. It changed from may to shall. These are the changes that she made. And that consent is required before sexual activity. Now, I want to get these edits in blue are her specific edits, but they also reiterate them on this page. So the woman that we're all talking about twerking, the conversation we really need to be having is about this mess right here. What she proposed, because she could be twerking and that could be something people are interested in, but I'm interested in the fact that she's a pervert. And she wants to amend this current sexual education curriculum to include from the age of grade 6. So for children who are in 6th grade to children who are in 12th grade, she wants to teach them sexual pleasure. Listen to this. Teachings would recognize sexual pleasure-based sexual relations. These pleasure-based sexual activities that they want to teach the kids about would include sexually pleasing things that homosexuals do. Firespawn said, why don't I agree with teaching kids sex education? Isn't that important? Is it important for perfect strangers to talk to people's kids about how to have sex and things about sex? No. I think when you have children that get to high school age, you can teach them biology, but I think sex talk should be between parents and children, right? I don't think that's something that should go on in the school, but I homeschool, so I don't have to worry about anybody teaching my children sexual education. And I would dare say that this is an example of why we don't need people teaching our children sexual education. Because right now, the twerking senator and everybody's focused on her very flabby, fat butt. And it's not big and fat in a like, I have a big butt type of way. It's just flabby and fat, right? They're worried about her twerking in a bikini. I'm worried about the fact that that perverse woman has put out a bill that she's trying to get passed where children are taught about sexual pleasure, giving and receiving sexual pleasure, where they are taught how homosexuals give and receive sexual pleasure, how heterosexuals give and receive sexual pleasure, lesbians, the gays, maybe transgender people. Who knows how far this will go? Will there be a man that has a penis and breast implants? All this sexual pleasure conversation. She wants to push this. You know what? Sexual education was already a very dicey subject, in my opinion. But the twerking senator, she wants conversations going on in the classroom that are based on teaching children about giving sexual pleasure. This literally sounds like grooming. Like, I'm not trying to be funny, because you hear grooming from conservatives all the time. But like, if I wanted to groom a child in 6th grade, right? The first thing I would do would be introduce them to sexual concepts. Why does a 6th grader or a 12th grader for that matter, need to be in a classroom where people are talking about how homosexuals get pleasure from sex, what lesbians do in the bedroom? Are we pulling out double-sided dildos and strap-ons and discussing with the kids how that is a pleasure-based sexual relation? Huh? Are we doing that? Are we talking about pocket vaginas and how that's pleasure-based? Because pleasure-based sexual relations being taught to kids, heterosexual-based, homosexual-based conversations with children. This is the bill that she's put out. Everybody wants to talk about this woman twerking. I want to talk about how she's an actual pervert. And I don't mean that as name calling her a pervert. I mean that as actually perverted. Because you have to be perverted to want to have these conversations with children. Period. No child, not a 6th grader, not a 12th grader, needs to learn how lesbians get pleasure from wearing dildos and sticking them in other women. No 6th grader to 12th grader needs to understand anal sex and how homosexuals get pleasure from engaging in different types of anal sex or sticking fingers up their butt and playing with whatever it is that makes men have orgasms that they claim, right? No 6th to 12th grader needs their teacher having a conversation about dildos and double-sided dildos and vibrators and pocket vaginas. All these pleasure-based sexual relations that people engage in. Nobody needs a full pornography course on how to have sex. It's okay for people to get married and to explore sex with their spouse. Call me old-fashioned. Call me old-fashioned that the healthiest way for people to explore sex is in the confines of a loving relationship. Preferably and ideally, actually a marriage, where you have two virgins coming together and exploring sex, not in a classroom with photographs and depictions and conversations with a teacher about how you derive pleasure from sex with any kind of person, transgender people. Because remember, right? It includes different sexual orientations. And these days, there's a lot of varieties, right? There are women who have fake penises and who have chopped their breast off. They get sexual pleasure some way. There are men who have penises and breast implants. Then there's your standard homosexual gay man, your standard homosexual gay woman. Then there's all of the heterosexual sex, because they're going to teach that too. And all of the pleasure. It's not just teaching how babies are made, but how these different groups of people give each other sexual pleasure in a classroom. I don't care that she's twerking. The fact that this psychopath, because, and this is my opinion, I cannot prove that she's a psychopath, but I'm going to go with, it seems like possibly she is both perverted and a psychopath. Because you would have to be, in my mind, both grossly perverse and psychopathic to actually pin down these words and attempt to get them passed as law. This is absolutely insane. So, like I said, this is not going to be an exceptionally long live. I think I've pretty much said everything I have to say. But, I started this journey because somebody brought up the twerking senator. And you guys know that I'm very busy putting together this festival. But, I started, I just want to see the twerking senator. But as I dug a little deeper into this woman's actual job, I found out that twerking is the least of the things that she's out here doing. It's the least of it. She's out here literally writing insidious, perverse laws. Her twerking, honestly, anybody who knew about this law should not be surprised that this woman was, in a bikini twerking. She's openly talking about teaching sixth graders about how to give pleasure in multiple ways to all kinds of people and just wanting that to be taught in school. So you think that twerking is off of her radar? Like, really? We think a woman who wants to put something like this into law, that twerking is something we're going to shame her down from? Oh, the shame has left the building. Twerking is the minor part of her problems. The inability to understand how that's inappropriate if you're a senator and all things aren't for all people is the minor part of her problem. The major part of her problem is this that we're looking at right here. The major part of her problem is that she's a pervert. And all the Black womanhood and LGBTQ flag waving, and you don't want me to be happy and live my best life, and I'm just unapologetic. All of the catchphrases in the world cannot deter from the fact that this woman is literally a pervert who wants to come for people's children, who takes some weird, twisted, crazy pleasure in trying to get a school system to teach children about how to gratify, to teach a sixth grader, a seventh grader, to teach any child how to gratify someone sexually in multiple ways throughout sexual orientations and all these made-up genders. Like, what in the flipping heck is happening here? Like, I'm just done with life. I'm done. I don't even know what to say, but I'm done. And that's the end of this live. It's pretty much that simple, y'all. Like, I don't have anything else to say. It's absolutely incredible. So I will talk to you guys later. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Are you for teaching children about pleasure-based sexual relationships? Heterosexual ones, homosexual ones, transgender ones, non-binary ones? Are you with kids seeing pictures and having discussions about all the people that have mutilated their bodies and how they get off? Out of all the apparatuses people can stick inside of them and stick themselves inside of and vibrate themselves around, you're just going to have these conversations with kids in school? Can your sixth grader attend this sexual education course? And do we even care about her twerking at this point? Have we moved past the twerking and on to actual outrage about what this woman is doing with her job? She better not get reelected. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say. There's no way that this woman can get reelected. If we can't do anything right, can we get her out of office and kill this bill? That's what we need to be talking about. How the twerking senator is a pervert and she does not need to be in office. And we need to stop just electing people because they're gay or because they're Black or because they're women. We need to stop doing that because some of these weirdos we're putting in office are just that. They're weirdos and they're going to do weird stuff with their representation of the people. So I'll talk to you guys later. Let me know your thoughts. Goodness sakes. Goodness. Just let me know your thoughts in the chat. I cannot.